program, you still want a shot at going to one of the best universities in Australia. So let me quickly share my screen and I'll get started without further ado. So. All right, this should be much better. Give me just one more second and I'll be ready to go. All right, great. So once again, hi everyone, my name is Massimo Spagnuolo. I'm part of study group and I do represent quite a number of different destinations, but the topic of today will be obviously Australia. That being said, by having all those different destinations under my wings, I have quite a global view of all the different advantages and maybe disadvantages of some other destinations. So if you have any question, as you probably know, feel free to use the chat box in whichever platform you're using at the moment. This shouldn't take more than 15 to 20 minutes, so it will be quite of an overview. But obviously, if you want to know something more specific, I'm more than happy to stop and address those questions. So let's get started. So the first thing is the agenda of today. As I said, that was a quick introduction. I'm going to show you a bit the location, a bit of a map of Australia, and show you where the partners that study group has are located. Then I'm going to talk about the types of programs that you can decide to join once you choose a pathway program. There's actually two different ones. Then I'm going to explain to you why and what's the reason to choose a foundation program or a diploma. I'm going to give you a quick idea of what are the entry requirements. Then I'll talk about why studying in Australia. And then I'll do a quick focus on two universities that study group partners with, which are the University of Sydney and the University of Western Australia. So as I said, this is the map of Australia. We have quite a number of partners, as you can see. There's UWA in Perth, you have one in Flinders in Adelaide, you have ANU College, University of Sydney, that we call also Taylor's College. We also have partners in New Zealand, obviously but basically they're all very, very competitive and they all have their unique aspects. So now the things that you can choose, actually there's two programs that you can choose if you decide to go and study there. And the most popular ones are what we call a foundation program and an international year one, or a diploma as we call it for Australia. So the main difference is a foundation will be more like a preparation for you to go to an undergraduate program. So that will last between 8 to 12 months if you decide to study in Australia. If you do a diploma, this will be the equivalent of a year one. So that's also quite popular because you obviously save time, you save money, and you still end up to one of the most competitive universities in Australia. The two have a couple of differences. And obviously your choices might be more limited if you decide to go to a diploma instead of a foundation. But obviously there's lots of factors to take into consideration. But just keep in mind that those two programs are just up for grabs, basically. So why would you study a foundation? And really that's very related to the title that we have today, is basically the tips and tricks or advices or why you would consider a foundation, because obviously it's extra time. So you would invest more time and obviously more money in spending some time in a preparation program. There's many good reasons to choose a foundation. The first thing is maybe the scores or the grades that you had for whichever education background that you have is not maybe up to the standards that you thought you could get. So you don't want to settle for a university that might be in the milieu of the pack, or you're still very ambitious and you want to aim for the best university possible. Well, a foundation or a diploma lets you do that. Because of it, by investing that time in the program, you will be in one that will be designed specifically for international students. As study group, we're very, very experienced in working with universities in Australia, and we know exactly what they're expecting from their students to be successful once they join their undergraduate program. So we want to really fill in the gaps that you may have once you join that program. Do it for 8 months or 12 months. And once you join the university, you're very, very ready to do really well. There will be a combination of a lot of different things, but there will be some English classes, but also a lot of different modules or courses that will reinforce your knowledge to go to your chosen field. That will be up to you. You will also get used to the university style of teaching. That can be quite an adjustment once you come from high school. Obviously, there is a difference there, so you will become more independent. You will learn to do a lot of things on your own. But being a very supportive environment, that will help you to adjust and obviously guaranteeing you that you can get that place at the university of your choice. In terms of entry requirements, they're actually quite flexible. So whether you come from an A-level, from IB, from a diploma here, or even from O levels, you might be eligible to go to a foundation or a diploma to some of our universities. And I will show you now the types of partners that we have, but it doesn't really matter what's your educational background. Remember that as long as you had at least passes in what you studied, most likely you're going to be eligible. If you have any doubt about that, it's very easy for us to just take a quick look at your transcript and to tell you immediately whether you meet our entry requirements or not. So while studying in Australia and New Zealand, obviously there's lots of things, but at Study Group, we have a total of 7 partners in Australia out of the 42 ones that you can find in Australia. But 5 of those are part of the group of 8, which is type of an Ivy League or Russell Group type of university. So basically universities that are recognized for their excellence in research, which will obviously improve your employability, means that you will get courses taught by some of the best teachers and will specialize in their field. So it's obviously a very strong benefit for a student. We also have 2 partner universities in New Zealand, which is also something that you could consider, called Waikato and Auckland. And we offer the types of programs that I showed you before, which are obviously the foundation, diplomas. We also have English preparation classes, which will lead to a bachelor degree. There's 3 intakes that you can remember. The first intake will be February, the second intake will be June, and the third will be October. There are a few differences in how intense those programs will be, which will have an influence on the entry requirements and on the English level required to join those programs. But overall, remember that you can start at 3 different times of the year. So those partners, now that I've talked about it quite a lot now, you're probably curious of which ones we're working with. So the first one is the University of Sydney, which is number 42 overall in QS World Ranking. Obviously, you don't want to take my word for it. Feel free to do your own research as you should. You want to make sure that those universities are doing consistently well across all the different tables. But I can tell you that from reputation or from the QS World Ranking, the University of Sydney being a top 50 best university in the world is obviously a very, very strong position to be in. But among those different courses that they teach, they are specialized in a few, like the ones that I see that I listed there are, for example, sports, law, nursing, civil engineering, architecture. It can go from business to humanities to even science and engineering. So you see pharmacy listed there or psychology. So you can't really go wrong. Most of the courses that you will find in Sydney will be very competitive. That actually is also true for the second university, which is Australian National University, or ANU, ranked 29th in QS World Ranking. Once again, this one is probably the best ranked university that we partner with, and therefore is very popular for it. We could talk about anthropology being number 4 or politics number 8, but also going more into science like environmental studies or, once again, psychology. There is way more. I just listed a few there. So if that's something that you're more curious about, all of those and the full list of progression degrees that are available in each of those universities are available on our website. And the last one, the one located in Perth, which is the University of Western Australia, also a World Top 100 university, currently at number 86, with, again, some very, very strong specialties. I would say that there's mineral engineering. I'm putting mineral engineering, but engineering as a whole, the whole department is very strong. They have more than, I think it's 3 of their engineering courses There are top 20 in US World Ranking, but you could go also to accounting, finance, law, or psychology. The University of Western Australia, which is also very generous in terms of scholarship. If you decide to still join this January, it's still possible. We have some very, very strong scholarship there, but I will talk about it a bit later. And the last one is Flinders University, which also has a very, very strong list of progression degrees available. Anyway, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is this, is a few facts that you should know about study groups partners. First thing is our ANZ foundations, if you decide to go with them, are university accepted within the Australian education system. We also have very strong flexible options. That means you can do minors, you can do double majors. There's a lot of electives to choose from, which is a big advantage of going to Australia compared to other destinations. For example, the standard degrees will last for 3 years with 1 extra year of honors if that's your choice, but some degrees will also require it. It can be longer, but usually it's internationally recognized and accepted. And the last thing that I really want to mention is if you decide to go into these programs, I understand that some of you might have sometimes some concerns or some questions about what happens if you don't actually meet the progression requirements to go to those universities. But I want to be to reassure you that whether you're going into Western Australia, or going to Sydney, or to ANU, our progression results are very, very good. And those are very recent progression results. It starts from 88 to 95% for Western Australia, 95 to even 100% in Sydney, but also more than 90% for ANU. If we're looking at only Singaporean students, it can be even more. There's way more that I would like to add about this, but obviously I want to keep the information general for today. And if you need more information about any of those centers, please feel free to type it in the chat box. Now, moving on to the features of studying in Australia, which is a very interesting post-study work visa, which is something that, sorry about this, just technical issue there. So students that graduate from Australia can stay for up to 2 years. Even cities like Canberra, Adelaide, or Perth allow students to stay even 3 years in Australia. So something to consider that if you have a long-term plan of maybe spending a bit of time in Australia after you graduate, you could also consider doing another job while you're finding something in your field, and that's fine even with this post-study work visa. Know that students can work up to 40 hours fortnightly. There's no working hours limitation, and the minimum pay is very high. So just wanted to reinforce that. On top of this, if you're obviously student experience, something that you need to consider, and as you know, Australia is a beautiful country, has lovely weather, lots of beaches, and a lot of our campuses are very, very nice study environment, very enjoyable. And we have lots of testimonials about this. Anyway, another thing to consider. So now I just want to quickly talk about 2 universities. So the first thing is, the first one I want to talk about is the University of Sydney, that has over 160 years of history. Once again, this is part of the group of 8 in Australia. So again, very strong in research. It's the first university in Australia, and more importantly, the first in graduate employability in Australia. If you want to extend that and go beyond their borders, they're also the 4th best university in the world in terms of graduate employability, meaning that within 6 months of graduation, they have an extremely high percentage of students that land a job. The other thing is ranking. I've talked about it again, but this is the one that is updated for 2021. Sydney is the 2nd best in Australia and the number 40 in the world. Just a picture of Sydney, which is a beautiful university. There's virtual tours available on the website if you're curious about it. Obviously, this year is a bit special, but still, this is a beautiful place, and I'm sure sooner or later you'll be able to access that campus. More about the different subjects. Once again, I don't have time to really go into any of those in depth, but whichever course you might be interested in, you will probably find it, whether it's arts and social science, business, health sciences, the law school, obviously in Singapore, which is a very popular one, science, which includes also medicine, pharmacy, natural sciences, and many, many more. You can see all the ones that are listed on this slide are top 50 in world rankings. Now, moving on to the last few slides before I finish this presentation, I'm talking about the University of Western Australia, which is also a very popular choice among Singaporean students in recent years for many reasons. First one, it has a very strong academic reputation, including very strong rankings like the one for accounting and finance, for structural engineering as a whole, as I said before. It has a fairly large campus with more than 25,000 students in a very, very international cohort, 5 residential colleges that are directly opposite campus, so it makes it very, very convenient. Obviously, it's also very close to Singapore by being in Perth, just about 6-hour flight, and you're already there. So once again, lots of things to like about University of Western Australia. So the pathways, I actually mentioned some of this before, but I'm just going to repeat it quickly. The progression there is something that we're very, very proud of. And the reason why the progression is so good is I think the quality of education that we're providing at Taylor's College is very strong. It's something that we've developed over the years, that we work very closely with the university. So if you go and decide to take a program and study at Taylor's College, with the aim of going to Western Australia, you can be confident that you will be prepared and successful once you join the bachelor's degree. So there's 2 more programs. Remember, I mentioned quickly the diplomas that we have. We have actually 2. There's one diploma of commerce and one diploma of science. So yes, actually, I thought I had included more details about this one, but anyway, I'm not going to do that for today. Basically, if you decide to go into one of those, they're available in the University of Western Australia. Once again, drop me a message if you want to have a separate discussion about these ones. And finally, studying in Perth. It's obviously the capital of Western Australia. There's about 2 million people, so it's not too big, but at the same time, it's extremely international. As I said, the campus reflects a bit the atmosphere in the city with more than 170 different nationalities. It's one of the nicest cities in the world to live in, according to The Economist. So being the 14th, the top 15 in the world for the most livable city. So again, that post-study work visa is something that you want to consider if you decide to stay. And it's so accessible from Southeast Asia. I mentioned that again afterwards. So I think I'm going to cut it short for today because I'm not going to have too much time since my colleague is there right after me. So I'm going to try and answer a few of your questions if you have any. Thanks very much for listening. Feel free to type them in the chat box, or if anyone wants to help me read them, I'm all ears.
Right, so we do have a question
Yes.
by an anonymous attendee. Hi, I saw in the program slide there's a pre-master's program. Will during the pre-master's program prolong the master's program itself, or is it part of the master's program, like embedded in the proper duration of the master's? And how will this pre-master's help in an MBA application? Yeah.
MBAs are a bit of a different type of program, because if you wanted to join an MBA, you would need some work experience, which usually includes some management one in your required field. So the preparation that we have to progress to a master's degree won't actually help that much with an MBA. However, it could help you if you decide to do it, and then afterwards get some work experience and try and join a competitive MBA. Yes, that could help. It's a bit of a case by case. I can't really give you a clear answer on that, but ultimately, work experience would be even more relevant than actually the pre-masters if you wanted to join MBA.
All right.
So hopefully that answers your question. But if you're interested in that, I'm happy to forward you a couple of documents that will help you, whether it's about the preparation to a master's or the MBA itself, especially the one in UWA. By the way, I forgot to mention that, but for those of you who are still interested in joining this January, which is possible, for the University of Western Australia, we offer scholarships up to 10,000 Australian dollars. So just keep that in mind if you're really keen on starting as soon as possible. You're more than welcome and would be very happy to support you.
Thank you for answering that question, Massimo. I'm just putting the link. All the students, you can hop, if you have more questions for Massimo, you can hop over to the main fair. I've just put the link down in the chat, and Massimo can take you through that. You can also go to the main virtual fair and go to the IDP counseling room, so you can present your scenario, your personal criteria for a university and the program, and talk to a counselor about it. With regards to pre-masters, from what I understand, it usually, if you do it at a separate institution, it may not be embedded, but I know that there are plenty of ways to embed it in your masters as well. So have a chat with the counselors on that. Thank you so much for your time, Massimo. We'll probably have you in the main chat to take all those other extra questions. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation. I really appreciate it. Oh, there's another one as well. It says, hi, is Australia accepting international students that are currently residing outside of Australia? And yes, the answer is yes. Massimo, maybe you would like to.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, pretty straightforward, yes.
Yeah, so do you want to answer that one before you go?
Yeah, so yeah, that's why, no, I think you were right. So yes, if you want to say yes, we do accept international students that currently reside outside of Australia. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, so at the beginning, you will commence virtually if the borders are not open yet. And once the borders are open, we'll arrange for your student visa and you can fly over. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Definitely check.
Yeah, definitely check with our counselors. Thank you.
Thank you.